What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got some more NBA news to, of course, talk about with you guys. And very recently, we actually heard that Colin Sexton and the Cleveland Cavaliers were having a little bit of a weird situation where it was being said that his value was just at an all-time low and there wasn't actually any market for him out there at the moment. Colin Sexton watched players like Jalen Brunson and Anthony Simons get big $20 to $26 million extensions and pretty much said to himself, well, hold on a second, I, in my best season, arguably had a better season than both of those guys, so I should be demanding a similar amount of money. And hey, fair enough. Statistically, Colin Sexton has put up more points per game and I believe better shooting numbers as well than both of those guys in his best season. And the reality is, I think Sexton might actually be the youngest, if not maybe Simons could actually be the youngest. I'm not exactly too sure. But either way, Colin Sexton has a fair enough reason to be arguing that he should be making a fair bit of money. Although I do disagree that he shouldn't be making $25 million, and I think it should be around $20 million, I believe there is still somewhat, at least, should be a market for him out there. But the reality is there is just not. In fact, it was said the other day that he has no market at the moment, and his best bet might actually be to re-sign with the Cleveland Cavaliers on a 2-year deal or something like that, worth maybe around $15 million or so a season, because he just can't get any more money. And he's going to have to prove himself if he wants to be a big money type player. The thing is though, something has really, come out that I find to be extremely interesting, and I actually think would be a really, really interesting move. And that's actually a little tweet that came from a guy named James Adam of What's On, What's On at the NBA or something like that. He's pretty much just a basketball page, kind of like he describes himself as an NBA analyst wannabe. And he also did some draft writing for League Alert. So again, I guess this guy's kind of knows what he's talking about. He's got a pretty good feel for basketball. He actually put out a thing saying, with Jalen Brunson gone, Dallas need to pursue Colin Sexton. I understand his worries as a defender and a passer, but Dallas needs to add talent before the franchise falls behind in the tougher West. He gives them a potential future second option and the tools to improve defensively. And I absolutely love this call. What is actually really interesting about this being mentioned as well is a couple of months, I believe it was being said by Chris Fedor, that the Mavericks were actually interested in him, and only a couple of weeks ago, it was said that Cleveland.com, I believe, said that the Mavericks would be one of the biggest suitors for Colin Sexton, and don't be surprised if they made a low-key trade. Now, I genuinely believe there is a big chance that the Dallas Mavericks trade for Colin Sexton and get him on a pretty cheap deal. Don't be surprised if they go to themselves, hold on a second, we've lost Jalen Brunson now, a really good scorer that, was able to take the ball off Luka and, actually was our second option in the playoffs. They've lost him now. Don't be surprised if they say to themselves, hold on, we need to go get someone. And right now, Colin Sexton is a very decent player who can immediately come in and be our second option, and I think we could get them for relatively cheap. Now, there will be some people in the comments that tell me, but they got Christian Wood. Christian Wood will be their second option. I don't think that's how Dallas want to play Christian Wood. Don't get me wrong, Christian Wood was the number one option on the Rockets, but he was the number one option on the Rockets because they sucked. They were terrible. That's why he was the number one option. On Dallas, though, I have a feeling Luka is going to use him as a bit of a glorified Kristaps Porzingis. And what I say by that is, the reason Kristaps didn't work in Dallas is because Kristaps wanted to be a star, but Luka didn't treat him like that. He wanted him to be a bit of a, just a catch and shoot guy. He didn't really want to rely on him to be a shot creator. he only likes to rely on his guards, it seems to be shot creators. And, you know, they got Dinwiddie, they had Brunson, they had Hardaway, etc. Doing that, he didn't really want to rely on Kristaps, and Kristaps didn't like that. But when it comes to Christian Wood, I think, will like that. I think he just really wants to be a solid contributor on a really good team, and I could still see Christian Wood averaging like 15 to 17 per game, just being a really good, like, very, very good role player, I want to say. It's almost disrespectful to call him a role player, but a similar type to what Jeremy Grant is going to be on Portland this season, I think, is what Christian Wood will be. The issue is, though, they've lost Jalen Brunson, their second guy, and their second ball handler, all that type of stuff. And now a player like Tim Hardaway might have to fill that role. And I think a lot of Mavericks fans are a little bit worried about this, and I don't blame them, because Hardaway didn't exactly have the greatest year. And Hardaway just seems to be the type of guy who needs to be coming off the bench. And that's what he did for the majority of the season. And with Brunson gone now, Hardaway could be getting bigger minutes. Not saying he would start, because if they didn't get Sexton, Dinwiddie would probably start. But still, I like the thought of having a big shot creator like Hardaway coming off your bench and only playing around 22 to 25 minutes per game and just being as effective as he possibly can be in those 22 to 25 minutes. I think Colin Sexton is a must-have player for the Dallas Mavericks. Now, how they get him, I'm not exactly too sure, because you've of course got to somewhat match up contracts, but not only does getting Colin Sexton, I think, make Luka Doncic a way better play, because he has now a player to rely on to be his backup ball handler and all that type of stuff, but he also now has, again, a second option, a dude he can fall back on. Now, again, as I said, I'm really not too sure who the Cavaliers look at getting in that Dallas Mavericks team to match the contracts up. It's no secret that I think the Mavericks are probably not too hyped on Davis Bertans, even though Davis Bertans kind of fits in to what the Mavericks want. You know, these big catch and shooting type power forwards and centers. He didn't exactly have the best time in Dallas. Again, only averaging 11 minutes per game. 37% from three is pretty good, but he's a dude that's on $16 million. He's on a ridiculously overpaid contract that goes for 3 years, and it's going to be incredibly hard to dump that contract. Although, I feel like if they were to approach the Cleveland Cavaliers and say to them, we will give you Davis Bertans and maybe a young player like a Jaden Hardy, a dude they just brought in, and maybe a protected first or something for Colin Sexton, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cavs actually thought about maybe doing that. Because I think Davis Bertans does add a lot to the Cavaliers. I think Cavs also like their taller, big man shooters, and we've seen that, unfortunately, Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley just have a little bit of a bad history when it comes down to injuries. So the way I see the Cavs looking at that, they might actually look at that and say, hold on a second, Davis Bertans makes a lot of sense in how he can be a 11th man to start off with, a 12th man even, but as the season progresses, he might find himself being like an 8th or a 9th man with injuries and all that type of stuff, and just being an effective player. Then you got a young shot creator you'd bring in and a first round pick for Colin Sexton, who they just can't seem to necessarily get contract talks with, at least going. It is a little bit of a frustrating situation, I know. I personally think Colin Sexton still re-signs with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think the Cavs do need Colin Sexton, and I just think they will look at it like that. If Dallas want him, the best they can kind of offer probably is like a Davis Bertans and Maxi Kleber. And I think Colin Sexton is a lot better of a player than that, if I'm being completely honest. I know he struggled a lot this season, but if he can get his three-point percentage up to what it needs to be as a catch-and-shoot player, and he gets his ball movement right, and maybe even takes a seat, I would assume, coming off the bench, I think it makes a whole lot of sense to bring in Sexton, because you could realistically have a 6-man of the year type of guy if you bring him off the bench, and if you start him, you've still got a really good shot creator. Just a little bit undersized, unfortunately, but is still a very, very good shot creator who I think makes a whole lot of sense to bring back. I don't think you get enough out of this Dallas Mavericks deal. The reality is, I don't think you get enough out of any deal that you're kind of getting right now. And it might be safe just to re-sign him and build his value back up. Especially if you want to trade him on later, then you can do that. But you want to build his value up, and right now, it's not exactly there. They don't have any value for him whatsoever at the moment in terms of the trade market. But I still think Colin Sexton could add a lot to this Cleveland Cavaliers team. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you guys think the Dallas Mavericks are going to trade for Colin Sexton? Do you guys think it'd be a good idea, or do you guys think it'd be a bad idea? Again, I definitely would really like to know all of your thoughts and opinions on this down below. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel, my IRL/vlogging channel, and my podcast. All of them will be getting linked in the description down below. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.